My name is Angela Droz, and the journal that I have chosen for my article is called SciArt. My field of study is psychology. SciArt is an online peer-reviewed journal. The articles like to use a psychoanalytic approach to the arts. The articles can be open to any psychology or any art, but the bulk of the articles specialized in literature or film. The type of writing conventions that were used in the journal were things like parallelism, definition, compare and contrast, analysis, narrative, interpretation. There were many other rhetorical conventions used, but those were the ones that stood out to me. And then the writing style I felt was really for a college education level. To be honest, a lot of the articles were over my head. They were written very formally with really complex word choices, but the articles were still enjoyable. I was able to decipher enough that I could follow what the author was getting at. Um, Most of the articles had a very serious tone, but there was a touch of humor here and there, which I enjoyed. Most of the articles are very lengthy as well. There were several different psychological themes found in the different movies that people analyzed in SciArt, and things ranged from dreaming to death to femininity, narcissism, gender identity. For instance, one of my personal favorite articles was a analysis of dreaming from the movie Inception. And it was very cool the way the author broke down the different psychology of the history of dreaming in movies and things. The initial plan for my paper was to start off by watching a movie that I felt would be something I could analyze while being about a relevant topic. The movie I chose was Boy Meets Girl, and my plan in my paper was to give a brief narrative of the movie and then to analyze the movie and to look for the psychological effects I saw in the movie. The theme of the movie is basically about a transgender person. So I also wanted to research transgenderism, which I Googled American Psychological Association to do because I figured they would be the top authority on that. And I did Google current online articles. I wanted to show the psychological effects that transgenderism can have, not just on the transgender person, but on all the people in that person's life. And for instance, in the movie, that included the mom who ended up leaving, the character's best friend who had a lot of confusion, and even a divided society when it comes to people that are for or against transgender people. This kind of tied in with the current events that have been going on, such as the Target bathroom scandal and the article about the transgender girl winning the wrestling tournament down in Texas. I noticed as I was researching the transgender theme that there was a lot of information on what a transgender person goes through, but the gap seemed to be that there wasn't much focus on the people surrounding the transgender person. This topic interested me because of my own situation. I have been affected by a transgender person in my life. And when I stopped and thought about all the effects that it has had on me, I realized that it was pretty profound actually. And I started looking at the movie and the current events, and I realized that a transgender individual does affect psychologically their family, their friends, society. Interestingly, a lot of the articles that I could find on transgenderism were more opinionated than factual. So I wanted to have one accurate factual source that I felt I could trust. And with it being a psychological condition, I decided to choose the American Psychological Association. Obviously, they're a well-known, credible source, and I wanted to see what they said about transgenderism. I did use other sources as well in my annotated bibliography. I used sources such as the Washington Post, Fox News, and even some more off the cuff web pages such as scarymommy.com or Bloody Elbow. It was kind of fun to see the different opinions, and some of the sites are actually geared, you could tell, against transgender people or for transgender people. So I found it interesting to read the articles from the different perspectives. My research question was, how does transgenderism psychologically affect not only the transgender individual, but all those around him or her? Research as well as my own personal experience helped lead me to my thesis. Transgenderism psychologically affects all those surrounding them. As I analyzed the movie Boy Meets Girl in my paper, I was able to take each character and sort of break them down and show how they were personally psychologically affected by Ricky, who was the transgender person in this movie. I could really personally relate to the different characters in the movie because I am the parent of a transgender child. Basically, it was like losing my daughter but gaining a son. The questions that you ask yourself as a parent are endless, and the guilt and blame and all the different negative feelings that transpire when you find out someone is transgender are very difficult to sort through. I feel like the following quote by my son is an excellent summary of what it is like for a transgender person. Probably one of the hardest things about being a relative or family member to a transgender person is that you have to start using the opposite pronouns, which can be really difficult, especially after you've used the other sex's pronouns for maybe 15, 16 years. When you're used to saying she, hers, it is hard to just automatically switch over and begin to say his, him, and he. Yet if you don't do this, the transgender person can be highly offended. I went ahead and made a list of some examples of some of the different psychological effects that I saw on different people in the movie, such as fear and hate, my own personal life, such as questioning, confusion, and also in current events around us, where you see a very divided opinion of transgenderism. And unfortunately, along with that, you see anger, confusion, fear, acceptance, love. Obviously, when it's not your own child, or maybe your best friend, or your sibling, it's a lot easier to just label a transgender person, such as Bruce Jenner, as a freak. And if you really stop and think about that, how would that make you feel if that was your own child? I never dreamed I'd have to answer that question. Well, I had to. I'm sure you all heard about the Target bathroom scandal where Target came out with a policy that said that transgender people could use the bathroom or changing room that they felt comfortable using. And there was a lot of outrage over that. People picketing, holding up signs, refusing to shop at Target. And if you think about it, what causes that is fear. And fear is usually due to uneducation. So, what I would recommend, my call to action to all of you would be to please educate yourselves. I'm not saying that you have to change your opinion on transgenderism, but at least try to understand it and where those people are coming from. You can try Googling the American Psychological Association. You could watch the movie Boy Meets Girl, or even just try putting yourself in another person's shoes for a while.